The hour is perilously close to dawn, as Jonas and Milo stand shoulder to shoulder in a cramped storeroom behind a neglected warehouse, the air thick with the scent of fresh ink and scorched paper. Around them, volunteers, faces drawn and sleepless, pack hastily collated bundles of the iron record into canvas satchels. Jonas, voice low and urgent, reads off coded district names, while Milo marks routes on a grease-stained map spread atop a crate. Outside, the city's industrial quarter is shrouded in a haze of coal smoke and anticipation. The first runners slip out through a rear door, their boots scuffing against cracked flagstones as the distant clang of a bell signals the changing of the watch. Suddenly, a coded knock at the outer wall sends a ripple of alarm through the room. A lookout bursts in, breathless. Directorate agents have been spotted on the next street, 2 blocks ahead of schedule. Jonas barks new orders, scattering the remaining couriers. Milo, without hesitating, grabs a stack of papers and thrusts them into the hands of a trusted runner, signalling an exit through a disused coal chute. As the sound of heavy boots approaches, Jonas grabs a box of still warm print sheets and shoves them into a false compartment beneath the floorboards. The agents crash through the side entrance, weapons drawn, as the last of the resistance slips out a service hatch into the pre-dawn gloom. In the chaos, 2 young couriers are seized, and the printing press, still humming, is doused with accelerant and set ablaze by the Directorate. Jonas, heart pounding, flees with Milo through a narrow drain tunnel, the acrid smell of burning paper and ink seeping into their clothes. Behind them, the fire's glow flickers off alley walls, and the first edition of the Iron Record begins its journey through the waking city, even as the network's losses become clear. Beneath an abandoned railway maintenance alcove, Jonas and Milo regroup with a cluster of exhausted couriers. The room is lit only by the flicker of a stubby candle and the glow from a map spread out on a battered trunk. Milo's hands tremble as he traces new paths, routes so old even Jonas is unfamiliar with them. Outside, the city is transformed. Directorate patrols march in tight formations, their boots echoing under the stone arches, while surveillance drones sweep low, searchlights combing the streets. Reports filter in. Safe houses raided, contacts missing. A trusted courier found in a Directorate van, hooded and silent. Jonas curses under his breath, realising the old network is compromised. He scribbles a hasty message to Evelyn in cipher, warning her to avoid all known rendezvous points. Milo proposes a radical shift, abandoning every established drop and activating a chain of deep smuggler routes, accessible only to those with the right coded tokens. They watch as a young courier, face smeared with ink and ash, hands over a torn satchel. Inside, a note. AugiZen are coming. The air seems to tighten. Jonas and Milo divide the remaining papers, dispatching trusted runners through sewer grates and forgotten cellar doors. The alcove empties as the last courier vanishes into the labyrinth below. As the candle gutters, Milo and Jonas realise the city's rhythm has changed. The Iron Record survives, but the network is wounded, forced deeper into shadow. Jonas presses the coded warning into a slot in the wall, a pulse of hope and caution for Evelyn, and the room falls silent, except for distant boots and the low hum of a Directorate drone. The worker district plaza pulses with nervous energy as crowds gather, drawn by word of mouth and the promise of the Iron Record's revelations. Jonas stands at the edge, camera slung under his coat, eyes scanning for both story and threat. Around him, Labourers in oil-stained coveralls shout slogans, waving makeshift banners. Suddenly, the crowd parts. 2 AugiZen operatives, faces impassive and eyes faintly aglow, stride into the open. Their movements are too smooth, too quick. Directorate agents flank them, forming a cordon as a protest leader is dragged forward. Jonas signals to his reporters, who melt into the throng, snapping photos and recording whispered interviews. The AugiZen units move with inhuman speed, dispersing the crowd with a single gesture, a metallic voice ordering dispersal. When a group of workers refuse to move, the AugiZen seize one by the collar, lifting him effortlessly and tossing him aside. Panic erupts, shouts, the crush of bodies, a trampling rush toward the square's edge. Jonas's team captures the chaos, but one reporter is knocked to the ground and seized by Directorate agents, her camera smashed underfoot. Another, limping, ducks into an alley, clutching a roll of exposed film. Jonas's heart races as he realizes the price they've paid. Images of the AugiZen, irrefutable proof at the cost of his team's safety. As the plaza empties and sirens wail, Jonas gathers the surviving evidence, hands shaking, and slips away into the alleys. The new danger of the city's enforcers seared into memory and celluloid. In the hush of a tenement basement, Milo paces before a makeshift map tacked to a brick wall, sweat beading on his brow as he reads the latest ciphered report. A trusted courier, a boy he's known since childhood, has been caught and forced to transmit a false message, luring resistance members to a supposed new drop. Milo's jaw tightens as he listens to the distorted radio frequency, recognizing the code word for a trap. Instantly, he orders all communication shut down. No messages, no handoffs, no movements for the next 24 hours. He dispatches runners to warn key members in person, sending them through the most circuitous, unmarked routes, through sewers, attic crawl spaces, over rooftops slick with rain. In the gloom, cell leaders whisper instructions, burning old codebooks and smashing emergency radios. Milo marks every compromised channel with a red chalk X on his map, eyes burning with frustration. In the silence that follows, news trickles in. Some resistance members have vanished. Others are in hiding, unreachable. Milo watches the city's veins constrict, knowing each route lost is a lifeline, severed. He drops his head into his hands, then straightens, voice steady. They will survive, but only if they adapt faster than their pursuers. As the final candle is snuffed and the basement empties, Milo's resolve hardens. The Directorate has forced the network into darkness, but not defeat. Evening settles over the rain-lashed stones of St. Coldus Cathedral, its spires barely visible through the mist. Evelyn, hair hidden beneath a novice's hood, approaches the side of the old sanctuary, clutching a tattered prayer book. She slips past a pair of watchers stationed at the main gate, their attention focused on a flickering comm tablet. Keeping to the shadows, she moves along a crumbling wall, following a coded phrase from Mara's message. Enter where the light never falls. At a forgotten doorway, she quietly unlocks a rusted grate, her heart thudding as distant footsteps echo in the nave above. She descends a spiral stairwell, passing alcoves lined with dust-caked icons and forgotten relics. Just as a watcher rounds the corridor above, Evelyn presses herself into a niche, holding her breath as the beam of a lantern sweeps past. When silence returns, she edges forward, locating a concealed lever behind a cracked statue. A hidden panel swings open, revealing a narrow stair. She moves quickly, voice barely above a whisper, as she utters the rite's final words, her entry granted. At the crypt's threshold, she pauses, cloak sodden, and listens. Only the faint drip of water and her own ragged breathing. Inside, Mara waits by a flickering candle, the coded summons in hand, eyes shining with relief and fear. In the crypt's dim alcove, Evelyn sits opposite Mara at a table littered with ancient ledgers and modern folders. Candlelight flickers over Mara's face as she removes a thin stack of documents from beneath her robe. Evelyn, breath shallow, demands to know the truth. Who Mara really is and why she's risked everything. Mara's voice is steady as she recounts her years of covert work, tracing irregularities in church assessments, missing names, unexplained ministry transfers. She slides across an original register, columns of names, colour-coded marks, and ministry intake designations, inked in meticulous hand. Evelyn's scepticism flickers as she scans the pages, recognising a pattern that matches her own findings. Mara explains, "The Church's assessment ritual is no mere test of faith, but a systematic sorting, feeding names directly to ministry processing. For years, she's cultivated informants, junior clerics, archive staff, even a few trusted guards. She's spent countless nights copying files, smuggling evidence, feeding scraps to a growing underground." Evelyn, hands trembling, asks for proof. Mara produces a sealed church log, complete with signatures and ministry cross stamps. The web is undeniable. Church and ministry, two hands on the same mechanism. As the candle burns low, Evelyn realises she has never been more exposed, nor more certain of the scale of what they face. Evelyn pushes back from the table, spine rigid, as Mara unfolds the rest of her story. She speaks of coded messages left in hollow bricks, of silent allies passing information at great peril. Mara admits to feeding documents and warnings to a dissident network, even as she continued her priestly duties above ground. Evelyn's mind reels. If Mara is to be believed, there are allies embedded in every corridor, clerks, archivists, even a few hardened guards. But the cost has been high. Several have disappeared or been silenced. Mara slides across a slim notebook, a list of names and ciphers, contacts within ministry and church. Evelyn studies the list, recognising more than one name from her own search. The realisation dawns. She is not alone. For the first time, the sense of isolation cracks, replaced by a fragile hope and a new, daunting sense of responsibility. Evelyn closes her eyes, breathes deeply, and extends her hand. They clasp wrists, sealing a pact. Mara's final words are soft but fierce. The Directorate's shadow reaches further than we guessed. The candle gutters as they brace for the next revelation, the lines of conspiracy stretching beyond anything Evelyn had dared imagine. In the heart of the crypt's vault, Mara produces a folder bearing the Directorate's sigil. Her voice drops to a whisper as she explains. All the churches and ministries' rituals, all the elaborate intake records, they are but the middle link. The ultimate authority is hidden in the governance Directorate, issuing commands through encrypted channels, bypassing every official structure. Evelyn pores over a printed directive, the ink still fresh, addressed to both ministry and church, signed with an untraceable Directorate cipher. There is no doubt. Project Ascension is orchestrated from the city's highest tiers, its reach long enough to erase entire neighbourhoods with a single order. Mara's lips tighten as she shares the latest intelligence. Her sources within the church's admin wing intercepted a security memo. An AugiZen strike team has been authorised, tasked to identify and dismantle the source of the leaks. The air grows heavier as the two women realise their window to act is closing. Together, they draft coded warnings. The time for secrecy is over. The resistance must act before it is buried. As Mara seals the message, a faint vibration shudders through the crypt, a silent alarm triggered by a hidden sensor. They freeze, eyes locked, knowing what it means. The enemy is already at the gates. A muffled clatter echoes down the crypt's stone corridors, punctuated by the hiss of hydraulics and the metallic click of armoured boots. Mara's eyes widen as Evelyn douses the candles and retrieves a concealed satchel. The AugiZen strike team is close, closer than either dared fear. The main stair is already lost. Blue light flickers against the far wall as two AugiZen, faces expressionless and limbs sheathed in reinforced plating, sweep the entrance with biometric scanners. Evelyn grabs Mara's hand and pulls her through a collapsed arch at the crypt's rear, the passage barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through. The tunnel beyond is slick with condensation, littered with ancient bones and rusted church ornaments. Behind them, the AugiZen sensors whir to life. A faint red pulse tracks their heartbeats, even through the layered stone. Evelyn whispers the sequence of turns, left, then two rights, then down an incline, her memory of the old catacombs their only map. At one point, Mara stumbles. Evelyn drags her upright as the echo of pursuit draws nearer. At a rusted grate, Evelyn produces a pry tool, working frantically as Mara listens for the telltale footsteps. The grill gives, and they spill out into a drainage tunnel, boots splashing through ankle-deep water. Racing down the passage, they hear the AugiZen pause, recalibrate, then begin their methodical search. Evelyn and Mara scramble up a slime-slick ladder, emerge into a rain-choked alley, and run for the pre-arranged safe house. Behind them, the crypt is lost, but their freedom and what they know survives. Beneath the cover of night and thunder, Milo convenes a clandestine meeting in a shrouded room behind a boarded bakery. Jonas, face streaked with sweat and soot, arrives with a battered folder of photographs and coded witness accounts. Evelyn and Mara slip in, hoods drawn low, clothes still damp from their escape. Around a scarred wooden table, the network's remaining cell leaders gather, faces gaunt, eyes darting to every shadow. Milo lays out the facts. Directorate surveillance is now so pervasive that only face-to-face meetings are safe. Jonas, voice cracking with urgency, argues that Mara must be brought fully into the inner circle. Her intelligence and access are too vital to ignore. Some leaders push back, haunted by rumours of informers and traitors. Paranoia simmers, tempers fray. Mara stands, steady, and offers her full history, passwords, and the last of her insider contacts. The air is thick with tension. Then, one by one, the leaders nod. A pact is sealed. They agree to escalate. More editions of the Iron Record, more direct action, more risk. Milo assigns new roles. Mara as intelligence chief, Jonas as publisher, Evelyn as investigator, himself as logistics. The meeting breaks as thunder shakes the city, each member vanishing into the storm-lashed night, resolved to fight on with new unity and purpose. The next morning, Jonas stands in the cramped press room in another abandoned newspaper warehouse, orchestrating a rapid print run. The Iron Record's next edition is hot off the rollers, its front page emblazoned with images of AugiZen units arresting workers. Couriers hustle stacks of papers into false-bottomed crates, while Milo coordinates their departures via coded signals. Suddenly, a warning comes, through a hidden wire. Directorate raids have begun. simultaneously across half the city. Sirens blare above as agents flood the street, and the heavy thud of boots echoes towards the press room. Milo yells for the team to activate the failsafe. Jonas stops the press and quickly locks it down. Couriers scatter, slipping out through a rear fire escape door. Luckily, the Directorate agents are not aware of every ingress and egress in the city. Jonas then grabs a bundle of vital records, lists of contacts, transfer manifests, coded intake logs, and dives out through the fire escape. Milo follows close behind, barking warnings to the couriers lagging behind them. Back in the warehouse, the Directorate sweeps through, augmented operatives leading the charge and setting fire to the press as they go. Unfortunately, in the chaos, several of the couriers get apprehended. Jonas and Milo emerge into a darkened alley behind the warehouse, hearts pounding, Jonas with the cache of evidence pressed to his chest. The network has lost its press, its sanctuary, and several trusted allies. But the truth and the fight escape into the city's veins. Deep within a disused tram depot beneath the industrial quarter, Milo introduces Evelyn, Jonas, and Mara to a gathering unlike anything they expected. Smugglers, railway workers, factory mechanics, dismissed clerks, and former church staff have begun arriving from across the city. Some carry copies of the Iron Record. Others bring supplies, intelligence, or offers of assistance. News of the Directorate's actions and the growing visibility of AugiZen units has spread rapidly through worker districts. Fear remains, but it is increasingly accompanied by anger. Milo moves through the crowd, coordinating couriers, assigning routes, and connecting people who would never normally work together. For the first time, Evelyn sees the beginnings of something larger than an investigation. The resistance is becoming organised. Mara quietly shares intelligence gathered from church and ministry contacts, identifying districts under heightened surveillance and warning that additional AugiZen deployments are expected. Jonas distributes fresh printing plates and instructions for underground publication cells. Throughout the meeting, reports continue arriving from across Atheros describing arrests, disappearances, and public demonstrations of Directorate power. By the time the gathering disperses, new supply routes, safe locations, and communication channels have been established. The city remains firmly under Directorate control, but a network is beginning to form beneath its surface. For the first time, the resistance possesses structure, purpose, and people willing to fight.